Hello, good evening. I'm Agamya Jain. I'm from Kota, Rajasthan, and as Adarsh said, I really want to go to the UK. I'm mainly interested in economics and finance. So, like, my dream college is London School of Economics and Cambridge and Oxford, of course. So, yeah, I think it'll be fun. The session will be fun today.
Fantastic. And why UK versus US? That's an interesting one. I mean, it's good, but yeah, would be interested to know your choice for UK preference.
Like, I don't have a very specific answer, but I think Europe and UK has overall appealed to me more than the US. And I believe for streams like economics or commerce related fields, I think UK is a better choice than the US.
Nice meeting you, Agamya.
I think with that, maybe Shashank, I think we can start the session.
Okay, great. So let's get started. Welcome everyone. I think we have a good turnout. Good 30 plus, I guess.
33.
33, yeah. Subtract three of us, you, me, and others. So yeah, maybe 30, but yeah. So that's why I said 30 plus. Yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Shashank Verma. I've prepared a deck. Maybe it might be easier to. Sorry, Vamika, you were saying.
So before you introduce yourself, I would love to give an introduction of you. I have had one session with you in that one session, I can say that the insights that you have given me, like it's out of the world, like the kind of experience that you have. But still, let me formally welcome every single one of you to this session with Mr. Shashank Verma on studying abroad and getting into your dream college. So now let me introduce Shashank sir. Shashank sir, with over 18 years in the sustainability sector, is an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and management consultant in India, East Africa, and Germany. Specializing in clean energy and regenerative economy, he has raised $111 million as he led a team facilitating East African energy access startups. So how you achieve this number is mind blowing. He's an MBA from Oxford University. Shashank sir is an innovative thinking specialist dedicated to creating a regenerative economy at the nexus of business, planet, and society. In addition, he grew up in abroad and did his grade 10 and 12 from Australia, getting 97.9% across all of Australia. He scored a 760 GMAT, which is a 99 percentile. In addition, he has worked with MBA Exchange, a US based admissions consultancy firm, and now he has also set up his own career consulting firm, advising grade 8 to 10 students on how to build their portfolio to study abroad. So if anyone here is from grade 8 to 10 and I'm sure you guys will be interested to talk to him further after this session, you can reach out to him regarding his consultancy services. So please go ahead with the deck that you've prepared.
Great. Thank you, Vamika. Yeah, brought back a lot of old memories and yeah, took me back in time. But yeah, let's get started. So with the real juice of this, and there we go. Let me know if you guys can see my deck. Yeah, can you guys see my deck? Hopefully, the answer should be yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So Vamik has already done a great job introducing me, so I don't need to go through it. But before my MBA, I was working 5 years in the IT industry, did my BTech computer science from NIT Kurukshetra, and also 760 was my second attempt. My first attempt, I got a 690. Not happy with it, but yeah, I realized I didn't get into good college, so I did rebook my profile, and I'll walk you through that. But okay, so you guys all want to go abroad, so that's great. I'll keep it interactive, and I can't see if you do type in your comments, but can anyone tell me what is the primary difference between universities like, abroad versus in India? Like when they're looking at you as an applicant, what is the primary difference?
So could I answer?
Yes, go ahead. Now, do state your name as well before you.
Yeah, my name is Vritti.
Yeah, Brittany, go ahead.
So I think the difference between US and India is US looks at you holistically, so they look at your extracurriculars as much as they look at your academic performance and your SAT score, etc. And in India, they primarily focus on how much you've gotten in your board exams, for example.
Exactly.
And that determines.
Yeah. Excellent answer. So yeah, so basically, you're not a number, right? So in universities abroad, they're looking at a holistic personality, while here it's just like, what is your test score, right? What is your grade 12 score? What is your IIT rank? And every half a mark or half a percent really matters. While there, you could be a 99 percentile, but still get rejected by quite a few top colleges because they're not looking at notes, right? They want like holistic personality. So good one. So I'm speaking to an informed audience, which is great. Other thing is when you are applying for your college application, do remember that this is going to be one of the most important decisions of your life. I'll say top three decisions in terms of how expensive it is. Can anyone name what the other two might be, or what are your top three decisions that are going to put you back financially? Anyone hazard a guess? I can't read the comments, so
Agamya raised her hand to answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Agamya.
Like, I guess buying a house.
Yeah, buying and another one.
I think I was thinking that would be choosing a partner.
Yeah, so getting married, buying a house, and college education, right? So these are your top three most expensive decisions in your life. So you want to make sure you get it right. And right now, I think if you look at some of the numbers, college loans and college education, piece has become quite expensive, and people, the college loans are actually quite high for even American students studying in the US. So so yeah, you want to make sure you get it right. If you get it wrong, then it can really set you back in life. Moving on. So I think this is why most of you guys have come for this session. So what are the universities really looking for, right? And I figured this out the hard way as well. So, as someone mentioned, they're looking at your whole personality, right? So test score is just one small part of it. Your college essays are important, your recommendation letters are important, of course, your, GPAs, your school is important, but extracurriculars are also very important. And also what they're looking for is how you fit into the college, fit with the college, and overall they're looking at the whole personality, right? So it's not just one score will make or break your life. So this is important, which also means that you can actually differentiate yourself from competition by focusing on your whole application rather than just one aspect of it, right? And I think there was one question that someone had asked, as a pre-question for this session was around how do you nicely tie in different aspects of your application. So basically, it's storytelling, right? So you need to really tell a good story, and also it needs to weave together and form a coherent story that's one easy to understand for the admissions officer, but also for you. It should make sense of why you're doing certain things, right? So why you're doing one particular set of extracurriculars versus others, and so on and so forth. So one of the most important things that you really need to get right is what's your story, right? And how would you break it down? So if I were to ask you, what are the top 3 things or 4 things that you need to nail down in your application? How would you define that? What do you really need to answer? Anyone wants to have a go at that? What should really answer in your essays or in your application?
Maybe the main aspects we will focus on when we are asked what's our story would be our childhood and
Sorry?
uh, I think the main aspects we would have to concentrate on would be our childhood, like how we spend our life,
Our
then would be
childhood,
our
okay.
then would be our hobbies and how we like to spend our time, and then would be our academics.
Okay, okay, great. What's your good name?
Riti Gupta.
Riti. Okay, good. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Anyone else wants to have a go? So she's saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think another thing is that if you have an entire section dedicated to just your extracurriculars, you get like 10 spots on the Common App. So I think what we shouldn't do is in our essays, we shouldn't write about our achievements all over again because it's kind of repeating the same thing. So I think the essay is a place to talk about maybe something that you're really interested in that you won't mention during the rest of your Common App because you want to make use of every single spot that you have in the application, perhaps.
Okay, what's your good name?
Riti.
Riti, okay.
Mm.
Who else?
So I just want to continue to this. I just want to continue to what Riti said. Not only what your achievements are, but how actually you as a person are. What are your personal qualities and how you're important in our society. So that's what
personal
matters.
qualities. Yeah, just state your name so that I
Omika.
know. Omika, okay. Anyone else?
I think one important thing would be like, what is some incidents that has changed you or made you the way you are? That would be important.
Okay. Anyone else wants to go?
May I?
Yes, go ahead. Please state your name so I know who's speaking.
My name is Aditya Sharma. And
Aditya,
what
yeah.
I personally think is the colleges look in us is the future. Well, basically, we need to state what we can do for the future and like as their alum and well, what drives us basically.
Okay, good one, Aditya. Yeah, so I
Sir,
think, yeah, who else?
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but this is Julian here.
Julian,
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to add on to Aditya's thing. It's in our story we have to basically provide what we have to offer and our passions and what sets us apart from the rest.
Okay. Anyone else want to have a go? There are no right or wrong answers, or maybe there are. But okay. So good one. I think there were some like points about what made you, your childhood, your achievements. Aditya got one right in terms of what can you do for the college, right? So one is why this course, right? What are your long-term goals, medium-term goals, right? How is this particular course, of degree, whatever that you're aiming for, fitting in your long-term plans, right? And there it's a story, right? So the second aspect is also why the college, right? How you fit with the college. And why is this college a fit for you? So let's say your long-term plan, let's say my long-term plan is to, I don't know, set up a business in the technology world, right? And I want to, be a techpreneur. And if I'm applying to a college like maybe, I don't know, like something which is very remote from tech, say a Harvard, it's not really known for its tech, then that might be a concern. But if I'm applying to an MIT, then that's like, yeah, that's a shoe-in, right? That makes sense. So your story needs to be also consistent with what you want to do long term, and also what has shaped you, right? So your qualities of what you bring to the table to the college, all of that, you can also highlight what would be your strength, because at the end of the day you have to remember that the college also wants to have great alums, right? And that they can sell. They're looking for the next leaders. So that's where it becomes important that what you bring to the table is something that's will add diversity to their mix, will add make the college stand out as well, right? And one of the things is also what they're looking for is your leadership skills, right? And that's why it's important that whatever all the things, and what's also your story, right? So why you want to do what you want to do in the future, that story adds up. So maybe you can dig in deep in your childhood, link up your extracurriculars to shape why you want to do what you want to do, and how does the college fit in, right? So I think if you answer these three questions, that really sets you up well. So I think Riti was saying that, yeah, you really don't need to mention your achievements here, right? That's right. You don't need to mention something for just the sake of mentioning it. But what you want to do is actually, list out why you went for particular extracurriculars or certain things, and how has that shaped your personality. And based on that, what do you want to do in your life? What are your future aim, and what is your future goal, right? And how does a college fit in? And then last but not the least, what you bring to the table for the college. I'll just pause there and see if this makes sense, because it's actually quite an important point in this whole session. If anyone has any questions or comments for this, then happy to take them now. Otherwise, we can keep going, and we could also pause for that. Vamika, whichever way you want to play it.
If anybody, no one has posted any questions in the chat yet. So if we do get a question, then I think then we should stop. If anyone has any quick questions, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. I think Shashank sir, everything is clear, so I think you can proceed.
Okay, good. Yeah, I like to keep it interactive, and yeah. So I think the couple of other things that some of the students do make mistakes, especially Indian students, right? So one mistake is some of us focus just too much on the test scores, giving too much importance to the test scores and not on the other aspects of the application. So that's something to be wary of. That colleges abroad are not just looking for the test scores. I think that's kind of clear. Some of you have already kind of pointed out that you agree with this. Second, there's an interesting one, is when you're applying for colleges, like, just looking at the rankings is actually not a great way of actually going about while you're applying for the college. I just pause there. I know there's some of you who have some thoughts. I think Agamia wanted to go to UK, and she had her reasons. But would love to hear thoughts from people of what are they looking for in a college while deciding which college they would like to go for, because then I could elaborate this point further. But yeah, feel free to raise your hand. Vamika, you can unmute them and they can ask what are they looking for in the colleges.
Vritti has raised her hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir, I think there are 5 factors you look at when you want to choose a college. The first one is how well is that particular program on the university? Because another thing is not its entire rank, but particularly for the particular thing that you're interested in, what's its rank in that? Because I think that really helps in placements when you're done with your education.
Yeah.
Another thing would be just the number of students and what's the class strength, because if you want to have like a lower teacher to student ratio, that matters as well, other than being in it because for example you really have a lot of passion for a subject, but if you look at Stanford and CS, there's around like 200 to 300 students in one class, so it's like you don't stand out, you don't get that one-to-one time with the professor. And another important thing that comes to my mind is also financial aid. So how much financial aid does that school you're looking at willing to give, or do they have need-based financial aid? I think these are the 3 most important things right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Anyone else? Raise your hand and unmute yourself.
Aditya, please go ahead. Aditya Sharma.
Personally, what I think is that what's important in the university search would be, well, of course, cost and financial aid. Then, well, it's majors and minors. I mean, it has to be like a decent array for basically my subject. I want as my major would be literature and language, and also co-op opportunities would be great. And then the other factors are also like climate, residence, the programs they offer, and well, the campus culture also.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so yeah, anyone else, Ramika?
I think not.
No. Okay, great. No, so very good points. So yeah, so when you're looking at, so you have to look beyond college rankings, right? So somebody mentioned like, okay, financial. So one of the things that I actually looked at when I was applying for college was also the international diversity, right? Some colleges are known to be more internationally diverse than others, and you want to make sure that you go to colleges that have that diversity, because makes that also means that the chance of you getting accepted is going to be higher in those colleges, right? So that's another one that you can add. Climate is a good one. I think it's good to also look at that factor when you're applying for colleges. I know some of us would be like, why look at climate? But trust me, it's an important one as well. And on top of that, you would also might want to consider uh, things like proximity to a major, hub of a financial hub or an economic hub, right? So if you're applying to a college and that college is really, really far in the middle of nowhere, then that's going to be a concern when you're looking for jobs. So if the college is, let's say, you want to go to tech and the college is actually slightly lower rank, but it's in the Silicon Valley, then your chances of getting jobs and networking, getting internships like rises exponentially, right? So that's also something to be mindful of when you are looking at colleges and which ones to look at, rather than just rankings and yeah, of course, how they're ranking for that particular course. Um, yeah. Moving forward, underestimating essays, right? So again, so essays are your chance to get your story um, and convey what who you really are. So basically you want to convey that. So besides the 3 point is like why you want to do that, apply to that college. Two, why what do you bring to the table, and three, how's that college fitting in terms of your is a fit for you in your long-term plans. The other thing is they're also looking at how you're able to communicate, how clear your thought process is, and whether you could be a good leader. So all of that needs to kind of tie in, and the essays are an important element of that. And that's why they ask you, right? The other thing to remember is one, it's also a very uh, uh, the other thing to remember is also a very expensive proposition for you. It's one of your top three decisions, right? So writing the essays is also a way for you to clarify and get your head around whether you really want to do this, right? So there were some people who said, "Oh, I'm not sure whether I want to go to US or outside, but like I'm even considering colleges in India." I think that's something to be mindful of. Whether it's really worth it, right? And in the absence of scholarships or other opportunities, it's a big decision, right? It is a big risk. So the other factor is also, the economy, that, the country that you're applying for or applying in the college. What are your prospects of getting a job afterwards in that economy, right? And I think, to your point, Agamya, if you don't really care about working um, afterwards, then UK is fine. But one of the disadvantages, serious one, that I also realized after having done that from Oxford, is the ability to provide jobs in the UK economy is limited compared to the US economy, right? Um, so that's something to be mindful of the sort of jobs that are available, and because that would actually also play into your calculation of the paybacks, right? Because it is an expensive proposition and you do want to work a few years or longer there. One, to get experience, but also to pay back your college education, right? So what you don't want to do is pay in US dollars and pounds and try to pay back by earning in rupees, right? That's going to really be a huge financial burden. Other thing is, not building the profiles strategically, right? So a lot of people would actually, so it actually takes quite a while to, and it's a formula that I know people in the US and UK who have been in that system, they just follow, right? So they would be like, before applying to college, let's say they're applying to college in 2026, they would have already started building their profile 2 or 3 years earlier. And when I say building their profile strategically, they'll be thinking what volunteer work they'll be doing, what extracurriculars they'll be doing, how does their final story looks like for the college essays. And they would actually be doing all activities kind of aligned to that, which will add depth to their profile. So that's important. So I think in India, where again, it's coming more from, I think this is more of an informed audience, where it's not just the test scores, but the profile needs to be really, building your profile needs to be more strategic, right? And it also has to play to what your key strengths are. What you don't want to do is, if you're not aligned and not aligned to be, let's say, athletic, is sign up and join your football team or your cricket team, right? Because you're really going to get slaughtered there. But if you are, then it does make sense to not limit yourself and actually do those activities and do them well, do them in depth. What the admissions committee doesn't want to see is you just having skimmed through the surface with a lot of activities, but choosing one or two activities and going in depth, right? So they would really look at people who have, let's say, signed up for the cricket team or college soccer team and have become a captain or a vice captain there or won something, right? And if you're not athletically inclined, maybe then you're signed up and have done really well in some of the indoor activities, maybe chess, right? So you signed up for chess and did really well and represented, I don't know, your college or maybe won at the district level or state level, right? So something that shows that there's more depth to your personality. And it actually also helps longer term, right? Just makes you a better person. Other thing is volunteer work, right? I think there was some comment about, there's not a lot of emphasis on extracurriculars in my school. What should I be doing? Well, the thing is, you have to start looking outside your school and doing volunteer work and otherwise outside your work and really going in depth, right? And this also helps both shape your personality, but also gives you interesting points to talk about you in your essays, right? Because when you're writing your essays, you need to go beyond, and the more life experiences that you have, the better it is, right? It could be going around planting trees, it could be going around teaching, volunteering to teach in slums, or it could be going around volunteering to distribute whatever relief material in cyclone hit areas or whatever, right? But like really doing some work, because that could also, I mean, it's great for the storytelling in the essays, but at the end of the day, it also helps you grow as a person, right? So these are pretty much my main points that I had. So would love to, I think Vamika, you wanted to have a kind of podcast style Q&A, so happy to do that. These are my contact details, so if people want to take a snapshot, you can also register. I do also have a YouTube channel that I shamelessly promote. Just because I have only 100 subscribers, I could do that. But yeah, over to you, Vamika, and we can start our Q&A kind of thing.
That is amazing. So to like for everybody's knowledge, we got a long list of questions from you guys in the application form, and that's what I'm going to mostly ask Shashank sir. But if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask them in the chat box. Okay, so my first question to you is, what did your journey in Oxford look like even before? So your journey before you applied. So you were always like this topper student. I mean, you were, but still, what was your journey like before applying and after getting in?
Okay, so I had an interesting journey. So when I was in college, I was doing my engineering. I really wanted to, firstly, I wanted to do some masters abroad, either GRE, GMAT, but I was more inclined towards management. So did give my GMAT when I was still in college, got a 690. But post that, I had to work because you need to have some work experience for MBA. So I did some work. I was working in the Indian IT industry 5 years. So first 3 years, I worked and I applied for some colleges, but didn't really get into good colleges. I was getting into Rotterdam and stuff, and I was not really happy. So that actually got me thinking on building my application, right? So one of the aspects was, hey, my GMAT score is a bit on the lower side, and I'm competing with, Indian IT male, which was like the most competitive category because you'll be competing with IITians and, with their 760 GMATs, right? Or 740. So I said, okay, let me retake the GMAT. I did that, got a 760. So really reworked on that. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The other things was I joined up and learned a foreign language, French. I did that. I signed up and learned salsa dancing to help tone down my overly analytical, nerdy side. So I'll be coming across as a fun part to my personality. And then I also did volunteer work with Rotaract International. And that's interesting because, what I did back then in salsa actually helped me much later in life. And yeah, I've like trained 3,000 students in Pune and started a dance school here. So it's interesting, whatever you do, you might have like, very small parochial motivation of doing it for one aspect of just getting into a good college, but that might have like later on implications and change you as a person and your personality. So that was my journey into Oxford. So I actually, when I applied, in 2004, I actually did not, I did not, had not even applied to Oxford. I got into like, I was waitlisted at LBS, waitlisted at INSEAD, and I'd got through into Texas Austin, which is like a top 16 program. But I was not really happy with it. So applied for Oxford last round and got through. And yeah, so that was me.
That's a very nice, like, ups and downs, and it's a nice story to share. I also had, this is like a question that I had personally. So, what are the exact activities that you did, like extracurriculars? So, you mentioned salsa dancing, you mentioned learning a new language, volunteering. But since you were a tech uh, undergrad, you were pursuing tech undergrad, and also you were into business. So, what kind of activities did you do around that?
Sorry, so your question is around what sort of activity, extracurriculars I did around to build my profile?
Yeah, so extracurriculars around tech and business specifically.
Around tech and business, right? So here's the thing: you don't need to do much extra. If you're coming from tech background, right, it's like your work experience. So I think it's kind of different for master's program because what they're looking for is your work experience. So you don't need to do like compared to, let's say, an undergrad program where you want to get into a stream, you need to showcase, your interest in that, right? So they're looking at your work experience. I think here it might be slightly different because you guys don't have work experience. You're like fresh out of school. So there you need to do a bit more on the extracurriculars. I'll just take one of the questions from Agamya. So do
Julian,
colleges? Yeah, sorry, Julian.
Julian had a question.
Go ahead, Julian.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't have a question, but I heard you mention Rotaract, and like I've been associated with Rotary since my mom is a Rotarian. Though I'm not officially allowed, like of age to join a Rotaract club, but I did participate in RILA. So that's just what I wanted to add. And like, how has your journey been in Rotary since?
Yeah, interesting. So I didn't know they had a. I thought road track was for the kids, but yeah, I didn't realize they had an age limit. I think I would say just sign up for whichever voluntary organization would take you guys, right? Because that actually helps you build build your personality, build your perspective. I mean, anything, right? You could like sign up, and again, depends on what your interests are. So what you also want to do is use this as an experience to be true to yourself. What you don't want to do is like just let's say you have like zero interest in, I don't know, environment, right? You just like sign up and plant trees for the sake of and just take pictures for that, right? So don't do that. If you're really motivated for I don't know, like for working with children and 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 teaching them slum kids, and then use that opportunity to experience that part of your personality and satisfy that part of your need of your soul, right? Of that, hey, go there, and you'll be and trust me, the stories that will come out, which actually come from the soul, would be uh, much more deeper and much more true and authentic, right? So that's the other thing. What the admissions guys are looking for in the essays are like authentic, true stories, right? Um, and part of the thing is like someone was asking, I think it was one of the questions for the session, is like, how do I really create and write impeccable essays, right? So part of that is you need to have stories. What are you going to write in those essays, right? So for that, you need two things. One is you need to have experiences. And I do get it that you guys are young and I've not had much experience. I've like probably been, and this is more true for India, and Indian parents are like cocooned and protected and just go to school and get good grades, kind of a protected environment, which actually also limits you from. And this might be different for this group, right? I think this group is slightly more advanced and more informed. So going back to writing stories, first you need experiences. You need to like do stuff, right? For that, you need to be outside your school and college premises, outside your homes, in the real world. And two, you need introspection. You need to go deep and ask yourselves hard questions. What do you want to do? What would you like to do? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And just be challenged, right? And ask and have a curious mind. Um, so I think that's important. Thanks, Adarsh, for letting us know they don't have an age limit. I would say even go outside Rotary, right? If your parents are there, I think they'll have an overarching kind of presence of what you do with Rotary. So I would say go with a not volunteering organization which is not connected at all. So you get like experiences outside, yeah, the protection of your parents.
Thank you so much, sir.
Challenge yourself, yeah. Sorry, Agamya wants to ask a question. I think she has a hand up as well. Go ahead, Agamya. I see what you've written, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just like I've heard that US colleges focus more on the extracurricular part and UK colleges focus more on the academic part. Like, what have you accomplished academically? So, like, what would you suggest in that scenario? Like, is our AP exams or so many exams more important?
Yeah, you might be right on that one. That yeah, having been into Oxford, I do realize that they are slightly more academically inclined. Um, but having said that, uh, they do like a good debate, and they do like a good essay, which is like nicely written, right? So that's the other things that you might want to consider, is to really shine in your essays. Recommendation letters would be important as well there. And I think you want to do economics, right? So in that case, they would want to see your interest in economics and what you've done so far. You could even, and I think I'll be going out on a limb, but yeah, not sure if you would want to or take a stab at writing a paper or maybe getting in touch with a professor who's an economics professor. He's doing some research and co-writing a paper, or helping them co-write a paper, and then they in return, put your name on that paper, right? That's something that you could try for. It's a long shot. Again, depends on where you are, where there are some nice economics professors there, and where they'll be interested to take you. Again, depends on your rapport with them. The other thing you could do is get some APs with economics to prove that you're really good at that, right? So
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Agamya has mentioned there's an age limit of 18. Vikari, you want to ask your questions?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, how important are AP exams to give if my board is not really up to the par? Because I'm in state board of Maharashtra and it's not as academically competitive as the other boards. So should I be giving AP exams?
I think it depends, right? So which colleges? So first question is, where do you want to apply to? Is it to US colleges, UK colleges, and
Yeah.
what sort of program do you want to go for?
I'm applying to the US colleges for management. I'm looking at Northwestern right now.
Okay, so you want to get into MBA, or sorry, management, like undergrad, BBA kind of thing, right? So here's the thing. So it all depends, right, on what your SAT scores are. One, two, it all depends on how you've been performing academically, right? So you might be coming from, let's say, a state board which is not so tough, but maybe they don't know that. But you've really shined there with all A's and whatever 90 percentile, right? So that helps already. Two, are there other things that you have done that could boost your academic profile? And three, how much you score on your SATs, right? So that's also important. So in that case, you might not need to do APs at all. But then the broader question for me is, again, what's your story? And when you're especially going in for management related courses, they are looking for leaders, right? So for me, it would be, if I'm the admissions officer, knowing Vikari as a personality and someone who is a leader, right? So have you actually, I don't know, been the captain of your whatever sports team that you played, right? Or have you done in-depth volunteering work? Have you, I don't know, led a team of people into, I don't know, let's say you did volunteer work for relief, cyclone relief, right? So there was an earthquake or cyclone and you went in for doing relief work. Did you lead a team there, right? For me, that's oh, wow, that's pretty cool, right? Because I don't expect a 16-year-old to do that, and that too from India. So I think those things become more important. So I think, again, it goes back to my point, and I want to emphasize this enough. It's and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we have been coming up from a very different training where everything is a number, everything is a marks, right? Academics are so very important. And historically, that has been the case, especially if you want to work in the Indian economy, get into Indian colleges. But now, as you know, I think most of you guys are an informed audience. You know what it takes to go abroad. But more and more, it's your personality and your experiences and your overall personality that's more important.
So if I have good grades in my board, plus I'm sitting on a 1500 SAT score on the first attempt now.
Yeah.
So,
So I wouldn't suggest you go for an AP, right? So what's the percentile with the 1500?
I have no idea.
Okay. So that's an F. Okay, I thought you'd already taken your SAT. Okay.
So I think that's at the 95th percentile for the SAT.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you've got like 1500s plus and good grades, I think you should be fine. I would be, then you're like more, it's like your overall application, right? Uh, uh, I would rather spend more time doing, volunteer work, getting into, other extracurriculars and building that, winning, I don't know if you can, a gold medal in whichever sport you can, right? I think that becomes more important, especially if you want to go abroad.
I do have the extracurriculars that you're talking about, but I'm really focusing on getting scholarships.
Okay.
So, does giving APs help in financial aid?
It's all contextually dependent. So I would say yes and no. And also, it's a bit hard to get the financial aid directly, right? So your performance in the first term there would have a huge impact on whether you get the financial aid. That's what I've seen, right? I could be wrong here. Again, it's all really generalizing it. So that's one. The second option is when you're looking for the financials aspect is don't underestimate the power of doing these RAs and TAs as a teaching assistant, and I don't know what the RAs are called. So basically, you're like assisting your professors and just helping doing grades and other stuff, making lecture notes. So that's actually a paid position. So that actually might not, it's not a scholarship, you don't get your tuition off, you don't, but it's like a revenue stream, right? So you work extra hours to generate cash to pay off for your tuition fee, right? And people would go there and work in, there are like opportunities to work within the campus. So you go and work in the college, in the library, and, that could be a job there. And or swallowing the the pride, you might need to go out and work in McDonald's or wherever, right? Which is also allowed. And I think they give you, there's like a specific number of hours. I think it's 20 hours a week or something like that, which is allowed on your student visa. You can't do more than that, right? You can't. It's not like a job where you mint money while studying abroad. But that's a legal way to actually earn money to offset your tuition fee. So a lot of people do that, and you will see most of the American students, if you're in the US, taking that route and doing that. So working while they're studying for their college fees. Yep, need-based scholarships. Yeah, true. Yeah, thank you. So there are, again, two sorts of scholarships. There's a need-based and merit-based. Thanks, Aditya, for pointing it out. The need-based would depend on the backgrounds that you come from and how much you can afford for it. And those scholarships would be paid for. The other thing to remember, which is a bit tricky, is also when you're applying for these colleges, you need to showcase in order to get your student visa that you can actually afford to pay for the whole tuition and your living costs, cover your living costs, right? So that's the other thing. So you need to somehow showcase that you're financially well off to be able to pay off for these tuition fees. The other thing is also when you're applying for these colleges, I think it again depends on, there are certain colleges which will actually give you which are higher ranked, where you might not get the scholarship, but you get an admit. And then there are other colleges who might be lower ranked, who see that, hey, Vikari is a great student, I really want her, and they would offer you, some sort of scholarship, right? So that's the other thing that you might want to consider. At the end of the day, you might want to, when you're looking at the whole scheme of things, it's all about your ROI, right? So if you get into a decently good college, let's say, I don't know, it's a top 50 or even a top 100 with like zero tuition fees, everything paid for, I think that's a no-brainer compared to, you paying, I don't know, the full tuition fee and everything, but even for that matter, a very good Ivy school. Yeah, you really need to consider that because the return on investment on something where you pay in zero is almost like infinite, right? It is infinite compared to where you're paying in and you have to recover that money. Yeah, having gone to Oxford and paid the full tuition fee and the living fees, yeah, I remember I see and advocate the importance of getting into a good college where you get like if you can get into free college, then yeah, nothing like it. And that's actually an interesting take. So there are colleges, I don't know if you are aware, but like colleges in Germany, for example, in Europe, you actually don't pay any tuition fee. It's almost free. But then you need to showcase that you know German and things like that. And then you get to work in the German economy. So that's another thing, right? So there are also good colleges in Singapore who offer quite a bit of scholarship based on your academics, right? So their academics play a big role. So that's also an important thing to consider. So when you're looking at different geographies and colleges, I think the decision should be where you get the best return on the investment as well as the best chance of getting a good job post that. Because 5 years, 10 years after you're done with your college, nobody remembers where you went to, right? Next questions.
I think Khyati has been waiting with the question for long now.
Yes, Khyati, go ahead.
Hi, sir. So, first of all, the course which I am interested in is pursuing international relations and diplomacy as my course. And it is very limited, like the course, it's very limited in certain universities because, like, some universities offer such courses, but they are more of like policy and governance and less focused on international relations for an undergrad specifically. But but my worry is not there. But the question I want to raise is that I have a decent experience of working in corporates as well. Like I'm the PR manager, head of Dell Affairs, then interned at Hindustan Times, and so on and so forth. But also I am the part of Intra Clubs. I have an NGO of my own, and I do a lot of community services as well. So, what do you suggest? What's a good way to build a profile? Like, should I be more focused on what job profiles I've worked with, like in the companies and stuff, or more of like the community service or the leadership roles that I've done? What's better to show?
I think all of it, right? So, so one part is what. So going back, right? So that's interesting. So and if I may ask, Kathy, what's your motivation to do international relations and public policy? You want to get into decision making of public policy after it?
Yes, I like to be a diplomat and more of like actually my field is like twofold. It's like if I get in the government, it's more of like diplomat stuff in the embassies and stuff. And one other field is like even the corporates nowadays are seeking for like this is a new job that is going to happen that even the corporates now are seeking for some people who are expert in international relations so that the ongoing globalization they can make their corporate decision wisely. For example, the firm which I have worked for recently actually there's like if the war is going on in so and so XYZ country, and being an MNC is very much affected by the war because they have operations in both the X and the Y country who are at war. Now, making decisions for that company is very tricky because they don't want to lose any of the markets there. So there they need a person who has relevant knowledge and expertise in that field, and they can guide the company policy in that matter. So my job profile is like these two folds, and I love to work in that internationalism field. And I have written two research papers already that were selected in G20 summit this year at the Sherpa office. And I am working with the Los Altos Institution USA, which on the South Asian geopolitics, writing research papers on that part. So like, what should my profile have and encompass?
No, so I think this looks pretty strong, right? So if you're looking at international, so thank you. So I think one part you mentioned about being a diplomat. So just want to give you a caveat there, right? So it depends on diplomat for which country. If you're looking at India, then you have to go into the Indian Foreign Services route, which is the IAS, and you need to apply there. So there, all of this doesn't matter. If you want to go and become a diplomat for, I don't know, in the US or UK, then that's probably might not be possible because they'll be looking at US citizens, right? Which I'm assuming you're an Indian citizen. So they would need you to be like a naturalized kind of born there, right? So that might not be possible, but your other reasons for doing this still hold, right? For working with corporates. So I think that is a strong reason. In terms of your profile, you mentioned your written papers on G20 and doing quite a bit of volunteer work. So I think it's all your experience, all of that, which is coming out, right? So when you write your essays, I think that's where all of this needs to tie in of what your experience has been so far and where you want to go. And based on that, so, and how does this particular college or the course at this particular college fit in with your scheme of things? And I think your experience and profile of having written papers, which was selected at G20, so that's going to be helpful. And also your volunteer experience. Again, I don't know the sort of volunteer experience, and I would need to, probably have a longer chat. This could be like a probably one-on-one 30-minute or even a longer chat to really understand your profile and see how one can build in, right? But important thing is, focus on the story. I think you're clear of what you want to do. So why the college? What do you bring to the table, right? And how does all your experiences tie in with this, right? So I think that's where, you could focus on, and even the volunteering experience that you're doing, go in depth, and utilize that for how that builds your story. So all of it is very context specific. Would be hard to give you a comment, but which is very relevant for you. But I hope this has helped because this is kind of a generic of what you could do to focus to build your profile. Hope that helps, Kathy.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Also, your choice of colleges would be important, and also where you do it from, right? Because they're like public policy institutes based in US. There are ones in UK, but there are also some good ones in Singapore as well, right? So it also depends on what you want to do post your college, and where you do it from has a huge role. And some of them might actually be more open to providing financial aid to Indians.
Right. Okay, sir. And one more thing that when we have to write about our participation in some competitions and stuff, like I have around 100 competitions so far which I have participated, and I have won in almost 75 of them. But
Wow.
I can't actually write all of them, so how can
You
I
don't need to.
filter these things out?
They'll be in your CV, but the most important ones, and what did you learn, and what were the challenges, right?
Right. And like, should I focus, like, should my activity that I'll mention should that be focused on some relevant thing? For example, I have won many awards in declamation, then some in science as well. But science is not relevant to the course which I am, being a part of. So, should
Exactly.
my activities target just a single course which I'm opting for, or can it be holistic as my profile is bunch of holistic?
Depends holistically, but I think you've answered your own question, right? So whatever is helping build your profile and your story, that's why it's important to see what your story is, what you're aiming for, and what your positioning is when you're applying for it, right? So I think that becomes very important.
Got
Okay,
it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kathy. I love the questions, and I absolutely applaud the experiences that you have till now. I think it's something very inspiring. Kanishka had a question for quite some time now. Kanishka, please go ahead.
Okay, so I had a question about Australian universities. So as you mentioned that US looks for a holistic profile like your extracurriculars and everything, and UK is more about academics. So what is Australia about? Because I applied to quite a few universities in Australia with good ranking, and I got like conditional letters from all of them without writing any essays, or even before I got my test high school results, like only based on it. Yeah.
So I like to give a caveat here, right? So whatever I've described so far is for getting into top 30, top 50 universities, right? So the A-listers, where it's really tough to get into, and where the acceptance rate is probably hovering between, in some cases 10%, in some cases max 20% or even less, right? Having said that, there are universities, and I don't know which universities you applied to in Australia, but basically, if I'm applying to Australia, or if I would advise anyone to apply to Australia, I would say like go for the top. I think there are like these top 7 universities, right? So there's like
group of 8 universities.
Yeah, group of 7. Yeah. So if you've got like admission in any of those, then that's good. If it's like below that, then yeah, that might be a concern, right?
Yeah, I got into 2 of them.
Okay, so that's good. So what is your question? Is what are the Australian universities looking for, or
No, so just because I got in without like any extra effort, like writing an essay or something, I don't feel that they're good enough. Is that valid?
It depends on what your profile is, right? So you might be like academically very sharp, and did you apply with like SAT scores, or they didn't ask for that as well?
No, they didn't ask for that as well. I just applied with my 12th result. Yeah.
Okay. Again, it also depends on what you want to do, right? So if you want to, I mean, congratulations on getting into the colleges. So if you want to work in Australia, and the sort of courses that they're offering is in line with what you want to do, then yeah, you could definitely consider that. Also, yeah, I mean, again, which economy do you want to work in, right? So, and what do you want to do post that? Australia is actually not a bad. I lived there, so grade 10 to 12 I did there, and I came back to India. So yeah, Australia is actually an interesting economy and an interesting country. It is kind of isolated, but if you want to work there and study there and then work there, then it's not a bad place to be in. So it also depends on what you want to do, right? But if you say, hey, I want to really post my degree, want to, I don't know, work in Europe or work in US, then yeah, doing it from Australia might be a challenge, because you'll be like a big fish in a small pond there, right? So if you really do well in your academics there, then you should have a good chance of getting a good job there. So again, depends. If you want to do that, then great. If not, then yeah, that is something else.
Okay, thank you.
I think we'll take this last question by Kari. Is it harder to get internships or jobs in Canada than the US? Can you please compare the both ROI wise?
It's hard to get internship jobs in Canada than the US. Okay. So here's the thing. So in Canada, um, the economy is really not doing that well. So there are a lot of people, you might have heard of this PR scheme, right? That Canada started with a lot of people from India, skilled labor. They got the PR when they're 6 months, a year, and then they have to come back because they couldn't find a good job. So it's works fine for blue collar job, plumbers, welders, carpenters, whoever go there, taxi drivers, and they find a job and do stuff, right? But for like more white collar job, IT programmers, consultants, uh, it's slightly harder, much harder. Um, so I think that's the case. I've seen a lot of my second order friends, so friends of friends who have actually gone there and struggled to find jobs and come back. Um, so that's what's happening in Canada. Comparatively in US, I've not seen much of that as of now. But having said that, things are quite tough in the US if you want to stay a longer term and get a green card. Because yeah, they really, I think there's a lot of people who are really stressed out because the green card takes like ages now, 10 years or so to get, and yeah, people have to really slog. And yeah, and they can't quit because if they're halfway through the green card process, then you can't change your jobs. So then you're stuck, which is a painful situation to be in because then you can't leave your company, and then they really screw you. And yeah, so that's the other thing to be mindful of. Yeah, ROI would all depend on how much you're paying and what sort of job you get. So it would be hard to compare now.
I think that's really insightful, especially with everything that's happening in Canada right now, even like political wise. So I think it just makes sense to hold off.
Yeah, and also when you're also looking at everything, you'd have to look at the big macroeconomics, right? I think there is you, Agami, you're an economics student, right? So if you look at macroeconomics, and this could be the last few comments. Like the growth in India is going to be humongous, right? So Indian economy is what, $3.5 trillion, took us about 75 years to get there. From here, and this is World Bank numbers, we're going to be a 10 trillion economy by 2030. Worst case 2032, best case 2028. So next 5, 7, 10 years is going to see massive growth. Like we're going to add twice as much the size of what the current Indian economy is, right? So each one of you is going to get like rich by 3x. That's what it means. And there might be like more distribution of wealth getting created for people at the bottom of the pyramid. I think the numbers like people who are like really $1-2 a day would like see their income levels rise to like 5x or 10x because much of the wealth would get distributed there. So that's going to create humongous opportunities.
Yeah.
So think about those things as well when you go abroad and want to come back. That what could that mean for you and your career? That the growth is happening here in India right now.
Definitely. I think we've progressed a lot as a country. And I see more people with questions, but since we're past the time, way past the time, by the liberty of others, we'll make a WhatsApp group on which everyone who's interested can post their questions, and we'll try to get them answered. So whoever is interested in becoming a part of that group, you can either drop in your WhatsApp numbers in the chat real quick, or share your LinkedIn profile. Either way, I would suggest sharing your WhatsApp numbers. I think everyone has WhatsApp here. So if you want to be a part of the group, just type in your WhatsApp number in the chat. Or if you want, you can personally WhatsApp me. This is my number. I've shared it in the group. Okay. So with that, we'll conclude the session. But Shashank sir, I would please ask you to say something about Skillzo, since Adarsh, the founder of Skillzo, has very kindly arranged this session for us. I think it was a very insightful session. I, for one, really learned a lot. So could you please your 2 cents about Skillzo or Adarsh?
Yeah, no, I have known Adarsh for some time. Met him in masters. I think he's a really switched on, entrepreneur at this age and set up Skillzo, which seems to be a great community. I see like 30 plus people who have signed up. So yeah, really interesting and well curated community that Skillzo has put together. So kudos to Skillzo. I see like these are all like really switched on and plugged in and well informed teenagers, young teenagers who are clear about their career and career goals, and they're taking that seriously. So I think that's also something to say about Skillzo. So well done, Adarsh and Skillzo. And yeah, and hope you guys found this session useful. I think I shared my contact details earlier. If you guys want to reach out to me as well, besides this WhatsApp group, happy to answer questions there. But yeah, if you want to have a more detailed session, then happy to have those one-on-one sessions, because I think some of this would require hand-holding. So yeah.
Unfortunately, I still can't see Adarsh. Adarsh, please come on camera. Anyway, I would love for everyone to follow Skillzo. I'll share the link in the chat box. It's a great community of students. I think it's worth joining. So you can follow us and then tag us so that we can mention you in the story or whatever kind of creative we come up with. And a feedback form will also be shared with all of you. You can fill it anonymously if you want, but I would highly encourage everyone to leave your 2 cents in that feedback form. So, with that, we conclude this session. I really hope that all of you join the WhatsApp group. I think it's going to be a great experience. Even if you are in the Skillzo community, you can drop in your WhatsApp number here so that we can add you in that specific group with Shashank sir. Our others, please go ahead. Please conclude it.
Yeah, first I will, thank you, Shashank, for, coming and giving us precious time. I will say the time which was thousands and maybe sometimes lakhs for hours. And yeah, and then thank you everyone joining. And hopefully you guys, had a fruitful session. And whoever is, interested in getting in touch with Shashank personally, one-to-one mentorship and all, with permission of Shashank, we'll try to facilitate the process and make it smoother for all of you. And we have shared the feedback form. I'll highly encourage you to fill that so that we can improve with your feedback and do well for you guys only. And I think that's my 2 cents. And considering the time we have left, I think we're good.
So, yeah, once again, thank you everybody for